Everything is.
Are we on?
We are. Well, like I say, I'm just going to double check on YouTube to make sure that we've got everything. Carry on. Mixing desk, that one seems to be live. Oh, what a good start this is, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. And welcome, I say back. I think people watch this once and then never return, but no, there's a few of you, very treasured patrons of the channel. So, yeah, I bought a trumpet. I used to have a trumpet, and then I don't know what happened to it. I suppose I must have sold it or given it to somebody. Anyway, there it was in the charity shop downstairs. So I went in, I tried it out. They were very polite. And yeah, brought it back, and here it is. To be honest, my first thought was to paint it rather than to learn to play it again. Not that I ever really learned to play it before, but I used to play a bit. I was pretty terrible at it. It's not really my instrument, but there you go. But they are fascinating objects. Now this is at a rather funny angle. I wonder whether I should rearrange this. Just use the... What do you think?
But what's the normal angle that people would sort of paint a trumpet in? I mean, is there a normal one?
I don't think there's a normal angle someone would paint a trumpet. I don't think that's a...
Well, no, but I mean, is there a side that you would sort of necessarily always lay it down, and so are you doing it slightly differently, or?
Oh, again, my limited knowledge of trumpet protocol is starting to show now. So,
Right, you and me both.
I don't really know. I'm thinking more about just from an aesthetic point of view. You know, what's the shape? How does it show itself to us? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a thing with making pictures which is about you want it to explain itself, and sometimes it's fun to make things obscure. I'm going to have a little play around. So what I could do is sort of prop it like that.
Well, it takes away the big kind of circle from the.
It does, yes. From
I'm at a loss. Horn?
Bell.
Bell.
God, I got there in the end. No, imagine people shouting at the screen.
Yeah. All two of them.
Both of them. What do you mean? Really? It's a bell, you moron.
What about flipping it around the other way? So that you have the...
So the bell's pointing away.
Yeah.
How does that look? Yeah.
I quite like the fact that it's resting on some sheet music. That's really nice.
And I think I might turn this case up on its end. Bring sheet music out. I want that an interesting angle. That's an interesting angle. You see I've got some dynamics going on now. And this, I guess if I propped it that way, no, it's too flat.
It does need to be resting up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could put it on its end. Go portrait again after you'd rearranged all the scenes. Brent's been moving everything around. Yeah, you can just copy scenes and recreate them, by the way. It's a bit too late to tell you that now.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for next week.
No, I think I'm going to go back.
You didn't want to have the case open, did you?
No, it's sort of too busy, too much going on. Wonder if that's
You always need something to just prop up that back part, don't you?
But no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to sit down again. Right, I'm going to make a little gap between the mouthpiece. Actually, if the music goes underneath the horn like that, that's pretty good. And maybe I'll move my accent light around a bit. Bell. Maybe it's a bell on a saxophone. Might be a flare or something on a trumpet. If you know, do let us know, because we're already floundering a bit. Figure out what the common nomenclature is for these things.
Actually, better without the muffler or the light there. You can see slightly more into the bell.
Yeah,
I'll call it that.
So now I'm just trying to see where my image is going to be. No, I quite like it like that. Could even put it back a little bit. Maybe like that. Actually, most of the interest is happening at one end, isn't it? But no, I quite like that. So it's all of the information. Oh, I've got my little wand thing. Are we on the palette again? Or is it just
I've lost it. Bear with us. There we go. That's the one.
Yeah, so all of the information is happening in this small area. So if I think of that, I need more of an angle with the case behind. Yeah, that works better. So when it comes to the canvas, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Are you happy with how I've got that laid up there? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, that looks pretty good. I wonder if I might move the case again. If I take it forwards. Running out of room here. Yeah, that's quite good like that. The valves are kind of next to that clasp, but no, you can't really see the valves, so yeah. Yeah, that works pretty well. Mute. No, that's not an instruction to you. So if I placed it just right, yeah, that should work. Right, so I think I might doing a bit of a palette scrape here. Just like last week, rescuing a few colours that I might use, whatever small quantity. Some of them I'll mix them all together. Those I might. Yeah, that's all gone. Right. This is probably the most satisfying bit of painting. It's nice to have something that's satisfying at the beginning, rather than having to wait at the end and then quite possibly being disappointed.
I think we'll be okay, James.
It's very fun. You say that, I mean...
Let's go back to that ASMR that we were talking about last week as well, isn't it? It's could be an entire section on its own.
ASMR?
Scraping for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, there was some...
Auto stimulation, something or other.
I don't know what websites you've been on. Yeah. Isn't that how David Carradine died?
No, that's
Let's not go into it.
no. Yeah. Joji says hello.
Hi, Josie. Good to have you along. Do my little warm up here. My fiddling about. My brain sort of settled into the idea of painting something. I think that will probably do for cleaning the palette. That's bits of dust now. Fine. Good. Yes.
Did you actually have a sort of try on the
Oh yeah,
a bit of a play?
yeah. Okay. Can still kind of get a note out of it. But no, honestly, it was even worse than I thought it was going to be. Right, I've got a bit of this sort of grey black left over from last week. I'm thinking about what colours go underneath, and it's quite interesting. You've got this sort of warm, that reddish colour of the case. Got a blue background. The black in the foreground should kind of disappear. So what's going to go beneath the whole thing? I'm guessing it would be, maybe I'll go with the blue at the beginning. Actually, I'm going to use a bit of that blue. Got a bit of this Prussian blue here. That's a nice one, Taylor blue, whatever it is, which is nice and transparent. So I think I might draw it in blue. And the first things I'm going to do are me wand again. Hopefully this will be useful. I've got this shape here where most of the interest is going on, but then I've got my mute up here, so it makes this nice kind of triangle shape. And if I look for that triangle shape, then I can put in something a bit like, should we go to the canvas?
Well, we kind of already know transition.
A bit like this. Yeah, exciting new transitions. And I'm just, I'm not worried about doing the corners. I'm just thinking of the angles and the directions. And if that's there, then the horn of the trumpet's going to be around here somewhere. So actually maybe the mouthpiece is over there somewhere. That's okay. If I start to sort of chop it up a little bit. Finding little rhythms. There's this little 1, 2, 3 there. Bottom of the horns there. So that's roughly where my mute's going to be. That's going to be about the top of the case, around there somewhere. And then that's the top of the horn. It's fairly straight onto me, but it does drift off a little bit. I'm thinking of the line of the case here. Something like that, which means top of that trumpet here. Let's go back here. Let's go back here. Now, before I do any kind of details or drawing or anything like that, which I'm already trying to do, but I'm sort of already thinking about it. mostly just going to be putting a few shapes in. So before I get to doing anything too fiddly and little, let's scrub in some big shapes. This is all details. There's no big changes in fields of colour from one place to another. But there is the light and the dark. So there's this nice bit of light and dark that comes from the music. That's going to have to end. If that goes there, which is rather nice. Okay, so I want this dark triangle sticking in there. Some of those shapes, that's good. That's going to come out to here. Actually, going to be a bit further out. Because that's steeper. Check out that angle. Oh, yeah. More like that. Shine underneath. It's all quite dark around here. It's not dark. Again, some. Yeah, scrubbing that in. Into it on here. I'm to find my way past all the cameras here now. Okay, now I need to be looking at shapes more. The bell of the trumpet is going to be really important. So I think I will put that in. Use this handle as a kind of a measure. That's going to come over here. Which means the bell of the trumpet is going to come down like that. And I'm eyeballing this a bit, but probably about this much below. There's this exaggerated, what do you call it? Exaggerated perspective here. I've not been too fussy about edges, that they can get fixed later on. Yeah.
So when you say exaggerated perspective, that's the bell.
The bell
curving.
is considerably closer to me than the mouthpiece.
Okay.
Which means that it's not just a matter of, how would I put it? Yeah, so the perspective in the picture will give the viewer hopefully a sense of just how far away the other end of the trumpet is. Okay, so if that's that line there, this is going to be around here somewhere. It's going to be some of these shapes here. Here. That's probably going to be the mouthpiece of the trumpet over there. Or maybe a bit lower down. And the way that comes along. I'm looking to this in relation to this piece of paper now. If I line that up, maybe a bit higher. Because I may have made that piece of paper too big, but that's okay. Now suddenly I've got a lot of space left over here, but I don't think that's going to be a big problem. Go. There's sort of valve tubes. And over here somewhere, be a bit of this.
It's going to be really interesting with the shadows that it casts as well as the reflections.
Yeah, so at a certain point I've really got to stop looking at lines and sort of objects. So thinking of this trumpet as a load of tubes is quite tempting, but not especially useful. Actually, all this moves around a bit. No, how wedded I am to the idea of the bell of the trumpet being exactly there, but it's going to be around there somewhere. But yes, there are some other interesting shadows. I'm going to be doing them in a slightly lighter colour. Painting the tripod as I go. Yes, I'm trying to avoid getting into describing every last detail of the trumpet and its tubing, and concentrate more on it's going to be a real brain melter when it comes to the drawing. Yeah, there's a space, and then this sort of going across. Hopefully this blue underneath will give it a nice little accent. There's something there. Maybe scrub that back. There's a lot of dark around here, but I have got that lovely orangey shine just off that sort of that edge of the bell, which should be okay. Yeah, around here somewhere.
Why do you, when you're doing this, why do you paint and then rub it off with?
Oh, I'm controlling the tones.
Okay.
So there's lights and darks, and at the beginning, I really want to get a sense of where the lights and where the darks are. That's actually about right. That could come down a little bit. So I can, because I'm using a well-sized canvas, I can change my mind about where things go, so I can just take that back up there, like that. Give it a little scrub. And I've changed it back into a light. Yeah, all of this stuff here, it's all far too complicated, so it's all going to be done with highlights. So actually, maybe I'll sort of scumble that, get rid of any edges and things like that kind of thing at this point. So yeah, so now I've got this sort of nice empty, it's a bit, I might move the mute back to where I had it before. I don't want to absolutely stop in the middle. Oh, I haven't even got the palette on at the moment. So is that happy there? Back tones, it's got this sort of dark areas here. There's a bit of space behind it. Maybe I could put that back a bit. Yeah, no, I quite like it like that. I'm quite comfortable. If anything, I'd say it sort of needs something here, but maybe what I'll do is do a sort of color change almost. So I'll cool things off over here for that side. That could work. A bit steeper. Something like that. scribble that in over here. I don't want to wreck my brushes, but get rid of all of the lights here, and then I can start to pull them out again as we go along. So along here, for example, it's going to get brighter as it goes. Especially there, it'll be a proper bright bit. I'll get rid of some of those drawing marks as well. Oh, a bit pink. God, it is still pink. Maybe that's not the end of the world, actually. Oh, there we go. With some of my construction lines disappearing now, I can really actually just sit with the composition and see what I think of it. Yeah. Okay, other little things. So let's put some of those flashes of light in. There's a bit, yeah, maybe a few bits here. A little flash of light over here.
So was the trumpet something that you learnt when you were at school, or?
No, I just, you know how I ended up with one. I suppose I just fancied giving it a go. I've never been much afraid of just trying out musical instruments. Yeah, and I found that was an interesting instrument to play. It teaches an awful lot about what music actually is, right? Not just how it works, but you know what is it that makes us hear music? Why is that a thing? And it's all to do with harmonics. And the trumpet is, if you don't push any valves down, it's basically a bugle. And the bugle is just a very long tube of metal. Obviously, you can fold it up; it's still the same long tube of metal. But what's fascinating about it is that if you get that to resonate at its fundamental frequency, so the sound it would make if you sort of just let air create a standing wave within it, you get fundamental, which this particular instrument is B flat. But of course they write it as C on the sheet music, because why wouldn't you? Yeah, but if you tighten the lips, you can get those sound waves to create a standing wave at a different frequency. So if you imagine a ball bouncing between two surfaces, maybe that's not the best example.
You're just moving one of the walls closer or further away.
Yeah, so that would be like the valves. Changing the length of the tube is like moving the walls. But once those walls are set, I suppose it's because sound has a set speed. How's the best way to explain this? This goes all the way back to was it Aristotle or was it the Eureka guy? Archimedes. Might have been Aristotle. Anyway, a philosopher walking past a market and hearing the sounds of different resonant frequencies of pots or something like that, I think it was, being struck and realizing that there was some interaction between those sounds that made sense to the ear. that comes from the harmonic series. And the harmonic series, you can see it with the guitar string. So a guitar string can vibrate as one string, but it can also vibrate in two halves, and it can vibrate in 3/3. But it's got to be an equal division, because otherwise that wave will cancel itself and it will collapse, so it won't resonate like that. So with the trumpet, you've got these divisions of the fundamental frequency that will resonate in that particular length of tube, and you get a root, a third, a root, a fifth, an octave, then a third, then another fifth. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you get a seventh, or maybe but if you keep going up this harmonic series, you eventually get to all the different notes, all the way up to the chromatics and stuff, and a lot of notes that will sound a bit odd to our ears, but and these are the notes that naturally exist within any sound. So unless it's something like a sine wave, which is just the fundamental, there's always going to be harmonics, and those harmonics are going to be reliant on the physical properties of the object making them, whether it's guitar string or metal tube. And those harmonics are where we get the sounds of harmonies and the notes that are used in melodies, and it's why it makes sense to our brain. And it works on animals as well. So an animal will be able to tell, even if they can't hear the fundamental, they can infer it. They can infer that there's a lower frequency there from the harmonic series. And that, and it's not like they're doing it on purpose, just like we're not. Your brain just figures it out for you. It's kind of a miracle when you think about it like that. Well, that was fun. Sorry, went off on one there.
Sidetrack.
I'm still fiddling a bit with this drawing, but I'm not gonna rush it. One thing is there, I like that angle there. I quite like these blues and the shadows, and that works there. So there's my case. And there's that line of the case where it closes, and this can move around a little bit. Not quite sure what that's doing. I'll keep this subtle. I'm not going to make a big thing of the handle because it will distract from the bell of the trumpet. But maybe around here somewhere. It's the top of that bell of the trumpet, somewhere around here. And there, so that's where my little... Yeah, okay. It's sort of playing along now. Behaving itself. Not even going to get as far as the other class. Am I happy with where the mute is? Yeah, I like the empty space behind. I sometimes have a rather different aesthetic favour for compositions which are possibly less comfortable than the classical ones, but I quite like that. And also, that's the good thing about making your own pictures. Do it.
No one telling you what to do.
Yeah, do what I like. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I'm aware it feels a bit out of balance and a little bit odd, but I'm all right with that. I'm actually quite enjoying it. Yeah, so tonally, that's pretty much what's going on. If you look at the image and you look at the canvas and you look at where the lights and the darks are, you squint, close one eye and blur your vision, you can kind of see that that's what's happening. Now I could pull a bit more out of here, quite a bit more light coming off the trumpet, but a lot of it's sort of highlights and specular reflections and that kind of thing. So I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay with that. So I guess it's time to do a little bit of mixing, isn't it? I'm going to just wipe off the palette and get the chunk off it.
Get lost. Okay. Now, I haven't got any cadmium yellow out. I'm going to want some. There's an interesting thing about painting metal, especially, that a lot of metal, like brass, has a colour. Has a colour which, it kind of puts it on top of the reflections it makes. So it never really exists purely because the metal's always reflective. You'd have to kind of make it really rough and dull to really see what that colour is. And it would be a kind of a, sort of a browny orange, yellowy browny orange colour. But actually most of what you're seeing is reflections from the room and the surroundings with a little bit of that colour mixed in, but it's still a good thing to have on the palette. So I think I'll start with that. And you can kind of see it in specular highlights. You see a really bright version, which will be the cleanest version, which will, there you are, some cadmium yellow. Let's get some white, put it next to that. I'll just make that as yellow as it needs to be. A little bit of red. Now I'm going to make an orangey red over here, so I can add smaller amounts of it, not completely lose my balance with the colours.
It was really quite fun as well, is that what with having the case just quite a monotone brown colour for the reflections and the light that's hitting such a reflective surface is going to be really interesting to sort of see how that kind of works well together.
Yeah, that's pretty much the sort of the specular highlight colour, so I can work down from that. I ought to use some yellow ochre, but I always find it a bit tricky from a textural point of view, so I'm going to stick with the expensive paint. So there you are. So there was a balance there of a bit of yellow, a bit of red. This is the kind of the core, most intense version of that colour. It doesn't really exist anyway, except maybe even that's redder. No, it doesn't really exist anyway. But it will be the colour I can mix into other colours. I'm going to mute that down a little bit of raw umber. A bit more red in it too. Redder. Is it redder? More red.
I wonder whether one week we should actually do a sort of mixing kind of hints.
That sounds fascinating, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that would be really popular, so we have to charge for it. Yeah.
Or at least sort of like dedicate a section to it of an evening.
Well, okay, well, this is interesting to me. So you, as a self-confessed layman, Graham, when you see me mixing colours, I mean, surely it makes sense what I'm doing. What I'm doing.
Yes, it does. But there's, I'm not a painter, and I find it fascinating, sort of why you would put in certain colours into sort of something. Like, what is it that you see in a painting which you then go, well, you know what, that's case in point is this evening where you said, well, there's nothing in this painting that is that colour, but I'm going to use it because I'll mix stuff into it. Now that for me, that's fascinating, because you've picked something which you don't even see, but you can foresight the fact that you're going to use elements of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got a bit of last week's red as well. I'm going to put that in for my...
And I mean, you know, there's some obvious bits of warming colours. You know, what you mix in to warm colours up, what you mix colours in to cool things down, and but it's
a way of seeing as well. I think that's a big part of it. I think that's the most important part. If if I gave you some primary colours and a Dulux swatch and said mix that, you might have to figure a few things out, but you'd get there. I mean, anybody would. You add a bit more of that, add a bit more of that, see, oh no, that makes it go this, that makes it go this, and you'd start to get sensitivity for it. The tricky thing is seeing the colour in the first place, and seeing why that colour exists. So the fundamental thing with painting especially is that there is no colour, there's light, and light reveals colour, but it reveals it on its own terms. So you get exactly the same set of objects, put them under different lighting, and all the colours are different. It means thinking of those colours as colours isn't necessarily that helpful. So we're going to see a similar thing. I'm just finding the colour of this. Can't really see it in the proper light, but this case, and I think that's pretty good. So, sometimes I'll do a little comparison like that, and then I'll put it on and it'll be completely wrong. But
we have had a hello from Ronak's Drawing and Scenery.
Who's that, sorry?
A guy called Ronak.
Okay.
He must have his own channel with its Drawing and
Good
Scenery
stuff.
he's got after his name. So
Is that YouTube or Twitch or
YouTube.
Fellow YouTube, then yes. Well, hi there, and thanks for popping in. And hope there's something here that's interesting to you. I'm trying to do the Twitch thing on YouTube. If I had to make a shortcut of what it is I'm doing here, so it's not really very conventional YouTube. I'm afraid, but that's probably a good thing. I haven't said hi, hey guys yet. Graham has undertaken a solemn promise to rugby tackle me to the ground and taser me if that ever comes out of my mouth.
Which would be rather entertaining as well. So.
Unless I say it sarcastically, or in reference to it. But if that comes out of me sincerely at any point, then I am lost. And
But going back to like mixing of the colours, it's the other part as well is that you've said in the past how each of them have sort of a different granularity to them. That sort of fair saying.
there's lots of things going on.
And is it the same with each paint when you say you've got the yellow ochre that you
Yes, horrible lumpy yellow ochre.
yellow ochre, yeah, okay. But is that the same across?
Love the colour.
But is that the same that goes across any brand that you buy?
It's the nature of the pigment itself. So yellow ochre is dug out of the ground, somewhere in Italy, I believe, and it's what they call an earth colour, and that's literally what it is.
But does it vary between brands? When you buy
so
them?
you get different sort of. There's different processes of making paint. One of which is mulling, which is when you've got the pigment, you've mixed it with the oil, and you usually have a glass surface and another piece of glass, almost like pestle and mortar but flat, sort of thing. And you just keep working it and grinding it, and it breaks out all the little lumps. The more you do that, the smoother your paint is. And so some brands, Royal Talons particularly, that's pretty good. Go for a very fine sort of grind and lots and lots of mulling. Milled as well, so it's all quite confusing. And so they're quite goopy, but the colours are very intense. But yeah, I've got the question now.
How the pigments could be a different sort of.
Oh yeah.
brand-
So
brand
and
mistake.
the much bigger thing is tinting strength. So the tinting strength of a pigment is a far bigger player in how you use it than that it's consistency or whatever. If it's a bit too thick, you can put more oil in it. If it's too runny, you can bulk it up with a bit of marble dust or something like that. But it's the trickiest thing about mixing is that when you've got a colour and you go, oh, I'll just put a dab of that in, it just obliterates the whole thing. Some colours have a very high tinting strength. Sometimes you've got a bit of a mix and you go, oh, now I'll put this colour in, and it doesn't matter how much you add, you can't quite shift it because it's got low tinting strength. But and sometimes you want to play around with that. I've got my blue background. I've got my brown thing. So can you see on the top of the case? You see how that's a different colour?
Mm-hmm.
It's lighter. It's also bluer. So how
It almost looks grey, doesn't it?
I'd make it by getting this blue and adding it to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it right now. I'll probably do that on the surface as I go along. But and look at the shadow of the mute. I don't know how much we can zoom in, but yeah. So that's where these colours come from, and they're all there's a company of colours, and they're all talking to each other. So I've also got this accent colour, so I might mix that up now as well. And the accent colour is actually pretty much just a pink.
And whilst we were chatting there, Josie's typed in and said, why do you say it's in some way unbalanced? I guess she's talking about the kind of triangle that you had, and that you didn't feel that it was...
everything's happening here, and this is all very flat lines. So all the dynamics are over this side. And then it drifts off.
I'm gonna have to point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Differently.
Oh no, sorry, I'm pointing at the canvas, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where all the interest is, and then this has all got quite flat and even. All these lines pointing the same way. It's quite relaxed. It's quite calm and peaceful. And then suddenly we're all up and down and all over the place, and all these sorts of rhythms and things, which I suppose is in keeping with the sharp end of a trumpet, because any musicians out there will know they lack subtlety historically.
What, musicians or trumpets?
Both. In the right hands, obviously, like any instrument, they can be anything. But especially when they're learning, like when kids are learning the violin, there's that. It sounds like a chorus of cats, because that's just what it sounds like until you get those things under control. Mm-hmm. There's very few instruments that can sound good straight away. I think the ukulele is one of those. Hard to make a bad sound out of a ukulele. You could be out of tune and playing it out of time, and it'd still be a bit like you're on a beach in Hawaii. That's too yellow now. So I'm getting my accent colour here, and that's going to add into probably some of the lights around this this piece of paper here. This side of where it reflects off. Even a few little bits, on the inside of this. But for that, it'd have to be mixed with this yellow colour, and that would give me that highlight colour on the inside of here. Last thing I'll do, and this is the sort of the deepest version of this. Now this is effectively mixed a yellow ochre there. If you get yellow ochre and you darken it, especially with something like a black, it will go green. I'm sure I've demonstrated this before.
Yes.
Do it again. And an awful lot of what's happening in the darks on this instrument actually are going into the green areas. Now I've got these colours from last week. I'm well known for enjoying a muted palette. And muted might be what I call this tonight.
Very good.
I know.
Love it.
But yeah. So appropriate when you're learning the trumpet, I think, to have that. You can't learn it whilst playing quietly. You've got to give it some. So it's all lively this end. There's also a very common thing that trumpet players have, that if you're playing in the open air, they just can't hear themselves. Because the instrument's so efficiently designed that all of the sound is going out front, and none of it's bouncing back with them because they're outdoors. So they just can't hear themselves. So some of them have this little reflecting thing that goes in front of the.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
You think it's them being courteous and trying to spare people from the noise they're making, but no, it's just entirely selfish, based around trying to hear themselves. Okay, I think I've got a starting point here. I do need a neutral grey as well, though. Where am I going to put that? I'm going to put that back here, actually. That's sort of my greeny colours. And the neutral grey, it's slightly bluey. A little bit. I'm going to use ultramarine just for some variety. It's because it's not going to look as sharp as the Prussian blue, which I was using elsewhere, especially for the background. So this will give a nice soft dark, which I can add to things. And if I take that and I add a bit to this yellow, I should end up with something that looks, green. And there it is. So that's going to turn up in a few places as well. All right. Shall we start putting some colours on, see what happens?
Sounds like a plan. I'll go back to the main canvas. Fade is amazing. Transition.
Are you enjoying that?
Yeah.
Good. All right, I've got some oil here. I'm going to be using this to keep things loose at the beginning. Tempted to go with the background colour at the beginning, but I don't think I will.
What oil do you generally tend to use?
I like using safflower oil. It's slightly runnier than linseed. But so usually what I do is I mix the two together. So I have a bit of linseed and a bit of safflower mixed together. And it suits me. It's almost more important that it's familiar than, you get used to it. Mm-hmm. And so you expect it to work a certain way and to add a certain thing to your mixes. A bit of thinners going in there. Okay. So tonally, you can see the moment that goes on, I've got this tone behind it, and they're not arguing with each other. They don't disagree very strongly. They're kind of behaving. That green's coming through, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. There's a bit of that there, there's a bit of that there. Sort of shadow, a bit of that there. So that's what that first bit is all about. Sometimes called the imprimatura, but yeah, it's really just a sort of a drawing layer. That's the way I think about it. Yeah. Now this doesn't have to be sort of super accurate or good. It just has to sort of get a thin layer of paint on the surface. There we go. Yeah, that's working. And a bit, oh, the palette's gone.
Don't worry about that.
No. So I'll get a little bit more paint in there. That should darken off, but I think it'll be okay. Now again, I'm going to put a bit more in here. This is quite thin. Not being super fussy about edges or anything like that. And this I'm going to work into later as well when I almost do it straight away, but it's not going to have the context until. Let's just do it now. Take a little bit of that blue. A little bit more. mix it with this brown, just a brush mix, that'll be fine. Let's put some of that in. There we go. A bit more on there. Do it, doesn't even know. There we are. It's brown. Brown, check.
Very interesting, isn't it? 'Cause the top of the case is actually quite reflective, and yet actually every other angle of it, it seems quite matte.
Yeah, surprises everywhere. You've got to be ready for these things. This is quite good for just a general reflective colour kind of thing. Yeah, the reflections are going to be important when it comes to describing the leatheriness of the leatherettiness. Is that a word? It is now.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, of the surface. I'll pop that back in there now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if that works, I can make a slightly darker one, use a bit of that black. So I'm really just still thinking of filling this as filling in, but there's a nice bit of shadow coming up there. Shadow underneath the whole thing. Carries on along here. Goes along here. Put a bit of that as well. Some under the handle. That side of the handle. Down here below. Where else? Put a bit of shadow in there. We'll add some blue to that later on. Maybe a little bit here. Am I being fiddly now? I feel like I am. I'll wipe off the excess and I'll just put a very fine bit of the light version, which is going to use a bit of mixing white, give it a tiny dab of blue, that's all. Okay, that's going to start over here. Oh, load that up again. As it goes, it sort of mix in the surface, so as that shine disappears, so does the just looking for other places where that might go in the meantime. Like that, looks pretty good. Bit on there as well, isn't it? Oh, that's there. See, it's not enough paint. It's much more like it. This is sort of highlight that goes under here. Not happy about that. Are we halfway in now?
We are halfway in, yes. Pretty good go. The previous ones, we haven't had colour on the canvas.
At this stage,
yeah.
it's amazing, isn't it? Because you'd think like, oh, if it's a 2-hour picture, it'd be like half done by now, but it's not really how it works. What else? Let's just pop in a few extra little bits and pieces.
Otherwise, we didn't have a 5-minute interlude of how sound works.
Music. But yeah, so I suppose it is partly how sound works. You're right. Yeah. I sometimes I sort of assume other people are interested in things in that way, and then I realise it's me being probably a bit geeky, but I love it. I find it so interesting. It's one of the things I really like about music and art, really, is that there's this sort of participation from the viewer that you know, you could say, oh, you know, Mozart was a genius, and you know, no one would really argue with you on that front. But the point is, when you listen to Mozart, it's your brain making sense of it. The only reason it isn't a load of random noise is because something in your head can figure out the sense in it. So without that participation from the listener, you know, there is no Mozart. You know, all of the you know, all the great achievements in art and creativity, they rely on this kind of shared language. You know, this is some paint stuck to a piece of canvas. It's not a picture. Well, you could argue that that's not hard not to spot at the moment, but it's a bit of that. I'm going to put some background on now.
Well, that's why I always find it quite interesting when there are sort of blanket statements of, and I think like rock music, as an example, some of the sort of heavier stuff, people will just generically say, "I don't like that."
Yeah, but that's more of a fashion thing, I think.
Well,
isn't it?
but I think rock music and heavier metal music gets singled out in that it's a genre which people will quite happily say, "I don't like it." Whereas,
no, they do it with jazz as well. Oh, people always say, "Oh, I don't like jazz."
well, okay, we did both then. Case in point, but
No,
it's
but I think we do it with almost everything. You know, it's like when people come into your shop and talk about how much they hate your coffee. You know, they don't really know what they're talking about. You know they're idiots. You know, so you don't even bother to correct them. But no, I think the point is that there's so much of these things are tied up with identity, how we see ourselves, who we see ourselves being. Music especially, and ever since, well, the 50s really, music became a vehicle for a statement of individuality, which previously hadn't really been a thing. It wasn't until sort of the 30s that the cult of the individual even began. And sort of the rock and roll age and the, you know, leading up to the 60s and that whole sort of cultural revolution was, yeah, it's loaded with this idea of you choose your thing to tell the world who you are. That sort of cult of the individual became a thing, and music is a very useful way of doing that, of applying that kind of, yeah, that sort of social statement, if you like. And so actually I think a lot of the time, you know, I've always said I like anything if it's done well, and it's been quoted by many people, Duke and Tim Louis Armstrong I've heard, and probably other people that I've never heard of have supposedly said there's two kinds of music, good and bad. And that's the bottom line, is that if you've got a bunch of people who decided to listen to you because you've got the right haircut, you're not going to get very far if you can't deliver on, you know, on the artistry side of it. So anything that's sort of widely popular, it's got some kind of, you know, there's going to be people who are at the top of it who are as good as anyone else doing anything else. I suppose it's a matter of the more popular it is, the more it can accommodate the detritus. So rock and roll was certainly that, you know, for a long time. You know, before that, there would have been all sorts of other types of music that you'd never have imagined there'd be a load of acts doing a terrible job of it. But, you know, actually that probably has been the case for a long time. This looks more like a beaker from a lab than a mute. There we go. Nice sort of smooth dip in. Right, where else is this going to be? Okay, now I've got that on the... I want to make it a little bit more pink.
Josie says, my sound on YouTube has gone crazy. Let me just log on and I will...
That looks all right this end.
Yeah, we're fine. We can hear each other.
But no, I mean, looking at the desk and stuff.
Josie, you might need to do a refresh. I'm listening to it now on my headphones and it seems okay on my side. Maybe do a refresh of the page.
Okay, some things where I'm going. This green, I'm going to use this green now. I'm doing all this with the same brush, by the way, which is quite fun. Put this green on. I'm going to put a little bit of grey in it. I'm just going to create a base against which I can actually think about the structure of the trumpet a bit now. And I'll do some of the darks afterwards. So when I put in this background here, that will go in the gaps as well. So I will leave that till later. That's a silvery tube and that's a brass tube. And I'm not going to do tons and tons of detail, but the drawing, quite comfortable with the drawing now.
The case has come together really well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a few liberties, if I'm honest, but hoping nobody will really notice that.
It's still sort of called poetic license in the artistry.
It's called artistic license. Have you ever heard the phrase?
Artistic license.
Can't be revoked. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. That's there. This will be slightly behind it. Oh, no, that's okay. Yes. I'm overthinking things again. A lot of darks and greens in here. I'm going to darken it off a little bit more. The red's in there too. Yeah, you sort of see it happening now, can't you? I'll go back to my blue and put a bit of black in that. Make a grey. Green.
She says I can hear one syllable in 10.
Oh, is it? It's not. It's not.
Facebook is hopeless for some reason.
Oh, how annoying.
Well, we are going to probably go for a break.
We'll have a short break
soon, and we can do a small bit of a play around on our end.
I'll tell you what. Shall we time that break with you finding a different time lapse? Right.
Yes.
Okay. If you go to, what is it on the left? Is it scenes? So go to add a new one.
So
It might be on
add
the
new
right.
scene.
Oh yeah, there you go. So you call it some kind of time lapse. I'm not sure what.
What's the date? Is it the 9th? Yeah.
I put the date in and everything. Mm-hmm. That's on here. Seeing some interesting shapes. I'll just keep copying those on. Do it. Let's keep this really simple. It's the highlights that will make it work. Highlights and shadows. It's going to do everything in here. Documents. So you're going to add a new thing.
I've added the new thing.
Oh, right. Okay. So you need the source. So go to the little thing on the right.
There. Sources.
No, on the.
Oh.
So select time lapse for your date.
But that one will.
Okay, double click it. Go back again. Sorry about that. Okay, that's not it then. I guess it would be go to plus on plus.
That's what I did, and then that created the time lapse.
Oh, right. Try it again. No, okay, it's not that. Close that. It's in sources. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. There you are. Add a new source. And it would be a media file. Okay, and you click that. That's where you give it a new name. Add a new source instead at the bottom.
Sources.
Yeah. There you go. If you go, it will guide you. Once you find it in documents, live stream. Time lapse. Getting a bit carried away here. About my trumpet. That quarter past.
Yeah.
It's a good time then. So you found documents?
Yeah, I'm into the time lapse video.
Oh, right. What's in there? Is it all familiar?
You've got two, which are the ones that we've already got, the exhibition ones.
Right. It should be more than that.
Black Shed Dahlia.
We already done that one?
We've done that one.
Or is that a new one? 1 else.
Not one that comes to left. There are all sources that I can't select, unfortunately.
Oh. Oh, well, I guess it's going to be... Pause again, isn't it? Yeah, well, we'll find a nice time lapse to put on and have a little break.
There's the dahlias.
Yeah, let's have some dahlias.
Yeah, if you just do select, then it will just happen over the top.
There we go.
Thank you.
So you should be wanting it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so. No, it says it's still coming out, but... Oh, goodness. Ah, I think I know what... That's what I'm talking about.
I did it on the keyboard.
Mixing desk.
Yep, where's your back?
Hey.
Right. With nothing.
I'll
double check.
Shall we have a little look at the palette just for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Now you can see from the image there, it's very plain in the background. Oh, I didn't like pressing it. Wake up. Hey. Sharing. Yeah. It's pretty good.
It is, the sound is kind of gone again.
The sound's gone.
Mm.
Just those two yellow things up. So the desk is working. I don't know why that could be.
Oh, that seems better.
Oh, maybe it's the the gating effect, the noise reduction thing. Oh well.
Seems to be working now, so.
I'll speak nice and loudly, and hopefully it will all come out. So that's my background color, but I've got a little bit more of that there. So I'm gonna be adding a bit of this into it on one side and creating a bit of a variegation across it. And also I've got my background blacks here, so I'm going to do those next, and I'll do the trumpet last. And that's really, I'm going to keep that quite simple. So that's going to need some of this blue as well. So I'm going to mix some more of this blue, which will be pretty simple, he says. Bit of Prussian blue, bit of mixing white, and then what did I add to it? I can't even remember now. Probably a little bit of raw umber, I imagine. Mixing white. There we go. A bit lighter. There we go. So that's some more of that. Let's put that here, and I've got my black that I mixed. So, let me have a look at this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean up some of my greens here. About keeping the, I'm going to mix all of that together. Some of my greeny colours. Got my browns here. Clean up some of those. And got some of this black. Oh, it's got lumps in it. I need to. It's got lumps. There you go. I think I've got them. Right, very few lumps at least. And I'm going to have two lots, one with a bit of blue in it, and one with quite a bit more, which is also going to warm up a bit. So I'll have a bit more blue and I'll have a bit of that brown in. I'll put a little dab of that light, yellowy light in there. So this is proper muted. Very difficult to identify that colour, but it's slightly greenish. And that's what this looks like too. So quite happy with that. And yeah, big brush. I think I've used the same brush all the way through so far, which is a number 10, which is this thing. Bit of thinners, a bit of oil. Okay, that's going to give me, see, tonally it matches. Is it lump?
Oh, let's go back to the main cam.
Oh, yeah.
You're done with the mixing?
Yeah. Yeah, so I just put some on here. You can barely tell that I've even put any paint on, but tone-wise. So that initial stage of just getting the drawing in has done its bit. This is a colour that others can mix into on the surface. So, yeah, where's that going to go? I think it's actually about in the right place. Move that up to meet the background a bit. Keep that soft, I think. go slightly a little bit darker. But I want to leave a bit of room for when the heavy shadows go in, so darken this off a little bit at the back. A bit here, a bit here. Again, this is going in very flat. This page is going to have to move by quite a bit. That's okay. Give that right back. Make a bit of space. And then really in here, it's in there a bit. Oh, I'm really not happy about these lumps getting in there. They irk me. Right. Let's go into that darker colour now. Which will bring with it yet more lumps, but there you go. Okay, there's some darks there. There's some. It's not dark enough. There's some. There's a bit. Yeah, I'm going to go further with this. There's some lump. Get out.
So we spoke in the break a little bit about the illusion that you're going to have to create with this.
Yeah. So
to explain that a little bit more.
Well, it's like actually it fits in nicely with what I was saying about the music. Is that Mozart can write a piece of extraordinary music and write it down, and musicians can play it, but without the listening ear to make sense of it, it isn't art yet. That happens inside the mind of the appreciative audience. Which means that people do need a certain amount of what do you call it? I don't know. It's just sort of a training, which is what any of us do when we sit and listen to music deliberately and get into something. We're training ourselves to appreciate it. We're listening for other qualities that it has. And once we sort of know enough, we've primed ourselves to be a sort of a perfect recipient of future artistic output that uses the same language. And so it's the same is true with visuals. If you it relates more to what you experience in real life with visual things. You look out in the world and open your eyes, and your brain goes about the business of making sense of what you see. Once it does that, it's got a sort of a visual faculty that it can apply in other situations, including having a painting put in front of it. So the simple, basic act of just seeing what it is something that should be kind of built in. It's remarkable how, to me, how few people actually really use it. I've had people come up to me when I'm painting outside and they go, "Wow, that's really good. What is it?" And I still cannot make sense of that. For the life of me, I don't know what's going on there, like what's happening in their heads. I mean, obviously, it's a testament to how nice people are. They want to say a nice thing, but they don't know what it is, And
Is this when you're painting outside?
Yeah, and they
So
won't.
you have an easel. You're looking at.
Yeah, they won't look in the direction of the thing that it is. I imagine they'd think you're just standing around.
As in, like painting from memory or something.
I don't know what people think is happening. It's.
Perhaps you should do that at the next Sherwood Market. Is go out on the street and just paint an apple or something that's not there.
Yeah. I mean, that might be You know, might make a statement to someone.
And then probably get the same people going, why aren't you painting the street?
Yeah, yeah, you never know. Okay, I'm going to go to one brush size down, and I'm going to chuck in some proper darks where they go. So in here, now I've got a bit of drawing in and stuff. Under here, and I can actually do a bit more careful drawing in. No, it's still too much thinners on there. Come on. I always say to people, make sure your brush is properly dry before you go in to do the next mix, and then what do? Stop paying attention properly, didn't I? It's going to be a dark there. I'll put that in as a placeholder. So again, I just need a sort of a suggestion of what's happening here. Oh, that's very interesting. Have I lost something here? No, I think that's it. No, goes up. Yeah, that's okay. But then this isn't okay. I'm just thinking about where my paper goes. Ah, it's weird. It seems to... I feel like I've lost it somewhere. I've been trying to keep a very sort of tight grip on the drawing and where it goes. These can be simple gestural marks that don't have to be super detailed. It's fine. I'm turning myself off now. I'm getting fiddly. Fiddling is not required. Get away with that. Yep. Same thing here. There. There. Something like that. Put a bit under that edge. So at a certain point, I've probably got too much paint on in some places to really do what I want to do, but that's all right. It's going to go there.
So I find it interesting. You, like at some point, say as well that I'm being too fiddly. Like, at what point is it in a painting where you then go, no, I am going to do the fiddly bits, and it becomes a conscious effort?
It's which fiddly bits. That's the thing. So you can get caught up. You can go, well, I'll put these few bits and pieces in first, and so I know what's going on, and then I'll get to the bits that are important. And then you can get completely hung up in the stuff that isn't important. And completely neglect the things that are. Then I mean, that kind of leads on to another question from, novice, somebody that isn't a painter, etc. Is where do you determine what is an important part and what isn't? See, that's the good question.
I asked a good question.
Well done. Gold star.
Yay!
Yeah, it's it's a personal choice to a certain extent, but it's the bits that are going to tell your viewer what's how to make sense of the image, not in a way that they're necessarily conscious of, but that it appears. So at the moment, I'm looking at the bell of the. This is the bell. Yes, the bell of the trumpet. I'm going to keep calling it that. Whatever.
No, it is. I did the anatomy of a trumpet, and it is the bell.
Hey, they are not a complete idiot. And that needs to make sense with the tube that goes backwards. It needs to make sense with the actual form itself. And it contains sort of all these interesting little reflections and things, which again need to make a certain amount of sense. There's certain things which will signal to the eye what's important.
But is that something as simple as that's the bell of a trumpet, and so the rest of it must be a trumpet?
No, well, yes, there's an element of that, absolutely. There's also, this is really tricky. Hang on. Yeah, there's also, I can't do two things at once right now. I'm pushing myself too hard. There's also sort of the journey of the eye. Where's it going to stop? And which places are important, and what information is going to do the most to describe that to someone. And sometimes it's more about a gestural thing than a sort of a accurate piece of painting. Especially with something like this, I could fastidiously, and lots of people would, fastidiously put in every last bit of detail, and there'd be a certain pleasure to doing that. I'd quite like to paint like that a bit more often. It would take up an awful lot of time. Some of my favourite artists work in that way. They'll do every last detail, and they'll take months over a painting, and when it's done, the presence of it's just extraordinary. In the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, that you get some extraordinary results like that, and a delight to look at. But last week I was talking about going to the National Portrait Gallery, and I saw that Sargent where he'd done the pages of a book with one single fat slab of paint.
Yeah.
And there's an efficiency to that which I admire. It was also you could kind of tell it was deliberate. He decided, you know what, I'm going to paint that book with one slab of paint. He didn't just get there and just slap a bit of paint and go, oh, that works. It was like, that was a decision of like, this is going to be one big solid mark that makes it sit right at the front. And the deliberate lack of detail was a big part of what made that work. There was this sort of.
But I guess as well, that's proof that it's a painter that is worth the salt, because they've done lots of painting in the past and they know the effects of what a big slab of paint done in one brushstroke is going to.
Yeah, and then you can do it on a book and less so on someone's cheek.
Yeah.
There's places where that plays out and places where it doesn't. So here, the thing that's going to be really big is going to be. So once I've got these darks in, these can be pretty loose. The thing that's going to be really big is the bright highlights and where the colour comes through. And if I can get that right, I am away. so I'm quite happy with a lot of this. Bring this in. A bit of that pink. Put some of that book in. Bit of zigzag. It's quite fun. So now when it comes to putting some of these sort of lights in and things, a few individual brush mixes going on. That needs to scoop in a bit more. It comes up. Not every mark has to make sense, but sometimes it can be pure observation, and sometimes it's just about being consistent.
I guess confident as well.
Yeah, it's an element of that. Relax. Oh, now I've got that pink on there. I'm going to put a bit in here. That's cheeky.
The timestamps, not just of the spatula, but of the cheeky strokes as well. Because we seem to have had one in there every week since I've been doing it.
Okay.
There's one that comes on, oh, cheeky.
That's good to know. Okay, going to need a few brushes for highlights, and that should make sense of most of it. Oh, here. Now here we are. So I've got this shadow color here. I was using it on the inside of the bell. It actually works quite nicely for this reflection on this page. What else? Let me go in with this yellow. Said I wouldn't be using it neat, probably, but actually. Let it flash like that. Level off. Okay, and it gets paler and greener. Get some of these pale greeny colours in. What's that do? That should be quite smooth and it doesn't drop off too soon. Yeah, so I'm talking my way through the sort of the arrangement of different parts of the image. Back to the yellow again. Which does have a nice edge around there. And if I get this right, it will look like the horn on the end of a trumpet. A few subtle bits of light here. Isn't too fresh. Again, those greens. A bit of white, a little bit of yellow. A bit of this. that's nice. And they kind of wander in like that. Nice little bit that comes off the end here. Could be whiter. Yeah. Bit bluer, still pale. Okay, so it's just little brush mixes now, just to get little details in. And a lot of it, I don't even know what I'm painting. And a lot of it, it doesn't really matter.
Just for a time check, we've got like 7 minutes to 9 o'clock.
Okay. I'm not going to do it in that time.
No.
But I'll probably get closer than you think. Okay. So all the places where this pale green goes now, get a little bit of oil just to make it go further. And there's some. There's a bit. A bit more. Hey. Bit yellow. Not that yellow. Okay.
With these accents that you do, do you say look at one edge of the subject matter and then work your way away from that part? Is it that you see a light spot, you need to paint it, so you just go to it? Or...
Right, okay. Now, so there's certain things that will guide the viewer. So here, I've got that dark there. This little row of 3 stripes, not green enough. Let's put a bit of blue onto that, see how that works. That's better. Let's put it to come up from that end. Also got a bit going around as well. So there's those vowels at the end. That's all the information you need to sort of tell people that's the kind of thing that's happening. Same on here. These are just little reflective bits. I can't do every last bit of detail. Just wouldn't work. So where am I? Oh yeah. Nice little golden stripe that comes from that end and trails off. Similar one along here. So this is the sort of pattern that happens with the pipes that go in this direction. That one less so. That's just more green bits. Little dash there. So that could definitely be a bit yellow and a bit green now. How's that working? Yeah, it's a bit more like it. There's a few sort of glowing orange bits around there. That's more orange, isn't it? There's a few bits under here. I don't need the palette on.
I was going to say, don't worry about that.
So used to jumping to it when it happens.
That's a Pavlov thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder if whenever a bell went off Pavlov thought that he needed to feed his dog.
Well, I imagine it did go both ways. Yeah, that's precisely as a thought I've had. Oh, bugger! I've got to feed the dog. Oh no! Hang on. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay. While that's on there, I'll pop a bit on here as well. Just a little dash under there. And brighter at the top. Proper reflection. And what else? What else while I'm looking around? Oh, there's sort of a violety highlight. Is that all right? This one green. Along here. It's going bendy. That's going to have it too. Is that? I'll chunk at the end. There. Okay, I'm getting clumsy now. I'll go back here. Okay, I'm going to go down to a smaller brush and I'll finish off with these lights, I guess. I'll spot some other bits I haven't done in the process of doing this, but first of all, flashes of light, that's where they're needed. Yeah, that's too early, isn't it? But, you know, for a tour painting, maybe I can't be too fussy about this. I'll just give myself the chance to do a longer painting of this. That's what I ought to do. Boom. Right. Where else does this go? A flash of light on there. There's a few little bits and pieces coming through here. Ideally, I'd have liked to sort of prepare the spaces where these highlights were going to go, just to get the most out of them. I'll make a slightly bluer light. It's going to go green, isn't it? I think it'll be okay. No, that's all right. Yeah. 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 So at the bottom. So that should start to look a bit like the valves now. A cool lighting at the top. On here. On here. There we go. Oh yeah, a few bits. It's nearly done, isn't it?
We're almost there.
Told you it was closer than you thought.
Hmm.
Okay.
It's so amazing, and I do find it incredible how a painting seems so far away, and actually it's there's a few specks, there's a few highlights that need to go in, and it just makes the last bit of the image. It's incredible.
Just to make sense of this, let's bring some of that light across. Bit of gloom in from the other side. Oh, I'll tell you what I haven't done. I haven't even mixed a colour for it either. Paper. Which gets really bright there. Ah. Yeah. Find a bits around here. I've still got a highlight brush on. I think I have of sorts. No, it's not doing it, is it? Okay, a bit more oil there, just to make that actually come off the brush. This is a reflection of there. How much more does it need? Yes, yeah, also these sort of little specular highlights jumping all over the place. Dab of that in there. Well, it does at least look like a coherent trumpet, which is challenge enough for me. I mean, I'm fairly satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, just trying to paint it so it looks straight is an effort in itself. That's got a little reflection on there. There's one. That should have been brighter. There's a whole load of little bits here, but it doesn't need to be proper detail. Yeah. I can't quite remember where that goes, but there you go. Now I've just got some of these warm reflection bits. There's some. Oh, maybe there aren't that many. Oh yeah, that's sort of. There we get these bits on, and then the white goes on top, and it should look like it's very bright. Put that yellow in there. Okay, this is getting to the stage where I could fiddle too much, and actually what I need to do is stop. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do my creamy bindings. Got to have those in. Yeah, well, that should be familiar to many sort of amateur trumpet player who picked it up and had a crack. Yeah, let's see how much we can turn this colour up now. That's the little cheeky tricks, you see. Things like that. Yeah. Is that enough? Still haven't quite got the glow in there. That will have to do it. What I missed? So many things. Oh, so many things. These little flashes of light all over. Hopefully it all add up and make those light areas that we saw in the original. Remember this was light in the original image. So hopefully it's picking that up a little bit. Okay, let's get a bit more of that light traveling across. Put some blue back in it. Mix it right afterwards.
I also find it incredible that the specs of the light that you've been putting in, you've gone down to a slightly smaller brush, just not a kind of minute brush. Whereas I would have thought with the detail that is going on within a trumpet would have made you go to quite a fine.
Yeah, well, you can use the corner of the brush, you see, so you've got a lot of different strokes you can make.
But do you find you have then more?
Sorry. Just being mildly annoyed at myself for a moment. Carry on.
Do you find that you have more control over a larger brush, but using the corner of the bristles than a smaller brush and using the whole of the bristles?
It will hold more paint. So if you want to make a long mark, you need a reservoir of a brush that will hold a lot of paint. And there's no way around that. That small brush is going to run out of paint. So especially for some of these longer marks here, you can get the edge of the brush, you can make a fine mark, but you can sort of drag it along and it keeps dispensing the paint, as it were. Oh, God, I've screwed up that mouthpiece. I'm going to be very unhappy with that. But there you go. And I should probably stop. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to do a darker version of that.
just to keep that background a bit more interesting. Go back into the blue for the middle. Just brighten it up. A few more dynamic marks going on. There we go. That will probably do it, won't it? Oh, haven't done the music. Well, I started with a number 10. I may as well finish with one. Hey. Thanks for hanging on, and sorry for going over time, everyone. Oh. So I'll get to the extra dark there.
Hello.
Yeah, ever since I had a little trip to London, ever since I've got back, the cat's obsessed with the bag. Don't know what he thinks is happening with it, but it's particularly interesting to him. There we are. There's some musical notes on it too. Right, I will use a small brush for one thing. I have to sign it, and I really ought to do it in blue. Ta-da! 1:15, not the end of the world. It's still a 2-hour painting if you take off the break in a minute.
Yeah. And the sort of passing around that we did with trying to get a time lapse on there.
Yes, all that kind of thing. Well, normally I do this sort of funny thing where I rearrange and do a ta-da moment, but actually, pretty much it, isn't it?
I really like that the case goes off the canvas.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I will do. I will do a zoom in.
And you got the interesting triangle.
So yes, hang on. There's the bell of the trumpet. I didn't do the cork on the mute, but yeah, you can see up close there isn't really much going on, but at a distance the light kind of plays in a way that hopefully makes it look like a brass instrument. And yeah, that's the viewpoint. Pretty much the viewpoint I see it from. I know, probably back here. There we go. Some subject matter. I really do have to get some other cameras, don't I? These webcams don't quite do it. And for those of you who wonder, there's the man in the chair.
Hello.
And there's the cat obsessing over his bag. I don't quite know what's going on with them. There you go. Well, thank you for joining, and this will be in the Big Shot Cafe tomorrow. And anything else to tell people about, promote? Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Not this one, Rance.
No. But yeah, that was a bit of fun, that, and well worth buying a trumpet just for doing that. Yeah. Yes.
Is it? You say the title. You still happy with the? Is it slightly muted?
It's still muted. It's muted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call it muted. Yeah,
because that's what everyone says about my palette, or my paintings generally, which is a polite way of saying dull.
No,
I know what
in
they mean.
your head.
It's fine.
That's people saying that it's dull. It's not. It's saying that it's you don't use. Well, maybe
Yeah.
we could do a painting next week of vibrant colours.
Maybe we'll do some vibrant colours. That sounds like a good plan.
I could
Vibrant
bring one of the
colours.
cushions from my house.
Oh God,
Paint one of
not that vibrant. Just work up in stages.
Yeah.
God, I can't even. Yeah, can't even keep my eyes open in the presence of those things. It's distressing. Maybe a pack of highlighters.
Yeah,
Be fun, wouldn't it?
that would work.
Yeah, that'll be a real colour test.
Is that after doing some sketching on a piece of paper in front of them with said highlighters?
No, they're not. They're not good art tools, unfortunately. But no, it'd be a challenge because of the whole day glow thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Like trying to paint a high-vis jacket is a particular challenge. You've got to get that spot on, or it won't work. Or boys in the water. Although you've got the advantage of contrast there. It's usually greeny blue.
Well, yeah. Lighters, highlighters next week. It is then.
Highlighters, yeah. Yeah. Well, join us for that.
Brilliant. Ah, cool. Well, that's half of trying to get figured out what we're doing next week sorted. So.
Yeah. That's goodbye from me and from Graham. It's marvellous.
Amazing.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.